In this video, I'll share with how I read the Ethereum chart, what I'm looking to do, where I'm looking for possible high probability trades, where maybe the direction might be going. So the first thing we're looking at is we're looking at the daily time frame. And yesterday, which just closed right at the 9 EMA. You'll see that it's been riding that for the last couple weeks, couple days, I'd say, or longer than a couple days. And that's a big momentum for the bull side. Now, what's unfolding right now is where I would expect probably a rejection. If we look at, let me actually go there. We'll look at the 1 hour because that's unfolding right now. I would expect here, especially with what I'm seeing on the chart, we are below my EMA average, the indicator I'll be releasing that I really rely upon for being bull or bear bias. We're below that, so I should be bearish. There's an anchored VWAP here at this high, and you see that's aligning pretty closely with the weekly open. So if we actually take another anchored VWAP, so not quite from this high, but let's just take from the start of this range. So if we go here and we just drop it right here, we'll see that that's right at, so the VWAP indicator from the start of this upper range aligns with the weekly open. So my next high probability trade, based on what this tells me, is if price gets above the weekly open, I'm going to short it. I'm going to short it with the expectation that it's going to go down and probably do what we're going to talk about here on the daily, which is, let's go here. If the selling pressure continues, I would expect the first target we would be looking for, which it didn't quite reach, is this breakup candle right here. So this candle right here, market loves to come back and test breakup candles, breakdown candles. I would expect it would come back and test that high, test that close, I should say. Maybe even dip down into it. You'll see it today on the sell-off, it came up short. So one scenario that I would be looking for in the short term is come up, test the weekly open, fail at the weekly open, and then come down, test the breakup candle, maybe go through it a little bit, maybe even touch the 20, which is this single kind of small line, touch the 20, find support, and then come back and close above it. That'd be one scenario I would be looking for. That's what I would trade if it unfolds that way and it looks like it's unfolding that way on a lower time frame. I would trade that. That would be the scenario I would trade. Now let's say if it gets below that, it's where it gets a little interesting because right at the 20, what is that pullback? So from this high to all the way to the 20, which is a moving average, and many people watch on the actual daily time frame, that's about a 25% pullback. So you would expect maybe an overshoot of the 20 and maybe down to 30, which it aligns with this anchored VWAP. Now, one of the things I do on all my charts, you'll notice, and which is real simple, you can do as well, is I take all the important rejection highs or start of a bull move, and I do anchored VWAPs from there. And then that is a good indication of where, and this is kind of the simple way to look at it, but where the average price, the average position is at based on people that have been participating in the bull market on the upside. And my expectation on that and how I use this is that typically is a area of support. When I say area of support, I'm not saying that exact line, but this general area is an area of support. You would expect people that want to continue to be long would maybe be dollar cost averaging. This would also be a point where people would say, okay, this is a good place that you would expect to find buyers. The other thing that aligns with pretty well is you'll notice my EMA average indicator, the yellow line here, pretty much whenever it hits that in a bull or bear trend, on the upside, obviously, on the downside on a bull trend, it bounces off that. It's a pretty reliable indicator for a very strong bull market or a very strong bear market. So if it does get down to this area, I would expect with these anchored VWAPs here, with these ones here, all these anchored VWAPs and my EMA indicator that I rely upon and that I trust in any market, in addition to a weekly open. So there's a weekly open here. This is a weekly open. I would expect if price gets down to this area, we're going to find some heavy rejection. We're going to find some heavy support. We're going to see people saying this is a good opportunity to buy Ethereum at a decent price with the expectation it's probably going to go above the high. Now, one thing I will say is if we look at this and we project this out, let's say what the scenario that I outlined actually does unfold. here's a probability based on my own math and how I actually trade the markets and how I actually track the markets. Is let's say it does come down and test this break up candle right here. So price comes up here, it gets rejected at the weekly open. It comes down and it hits this area right here. Maybe even comes down and hits the 20. Let's say it does hit the 20. Let's say it tests the 20. That's what you're looking for. It comes down into this breakout candle, but it closes above this breakout candle. So it comes down, tests, and it closes above this breakup candle. In that scenario, here's what I would be looking for to be bullish and to remain bullish. If that day or the previous day, or the next day, I should say, closes, or 3 days from there. So in the next 2 days from testing the 20, it comes up and it closes above 50% of the high and the low, there's a high probability that it's going to retest the high. It's like 74% based on how I track the markets. So if the daily closes above 50%, there's a high probability, like at 90%, that it's going to test the open of this breakup candle right here. That would be my first target. So if it did this, my short-term scalping would be long. I would be focused on being long. And then if it closes above this breakup candle, then there's a high probability it's going to test beyond the high. It might go 2 to 4% above the high, like Ethereum likes to do. You know, somewhere, if we go here, somewhere like right around, let's say 48, 46, 4,800, maybe even as high as 8% possibly. That's if it does that, if it closes that on the daily. So that's what I'd be looking for game if we find, or to game out my kind of daily trading. If it comes down, touches the 20, finds support, and everything aligns on a lower time frame. One other thing I would look at before I end the video here is let's just look at the weekly. Let's see what story the weekly tells us. We go here and just go weekly. Well, the first thing that sticks out to me on the weekly is that the 5 moving average is just above the previous week's open. And the weekly likes to come down and test the 5 pretty often. You'll see that on just about any market, any chart. So it wouldn't be outside of the cards for it to come down and maybe retest this previous week open, find support, and maybe range for a little bit. That's not outside it. That looks healthy. And I say healthy in air quotes because we're talking about cryptocurrency, and it's a highly volatile market. So what's healthy, I don't know, but that would be healthy for what I would consider in a strong bull trend in the cryptocurrency market. So my immediate target, or my immediate trading plan, based on what the chart tells me, is to try to get short up here at a good entry and write it down to potentially test this breakup candle. That'd be my first target. And then my longer term target might find some support there, maybe play the bounce, come back down, and would expect a 20 moving average test. That could all change if we get a close above the weekly open. If the weekly open is recaptured and it closes solidly there, and on lower time frames it's starting to align where it's starting to range and it's starting to build some momentum, then the same thing that I said about recapturing the 50% pullback is that if we look at that, let's say this is a low, you'll say, well, I wish I would have bought there, because if it does close above this 50%, there's a high probability it's going to retest this high. Like I said, high probability it's going to retest the breakdown candle open, and this high, it might double top, come back down, but there's a high probability it's going to test that high. So hopefully this is clear. I feel like I need to get used to doing videos again, because I'm not sure I'm as concise as I probably should be. But please leave any feedback, any comments, anything else you'd like me to cover. Definitely would consider it.